Ah. Take 20 over several days? Something like that. I would yell louder, but I don't want to blow out the audio reception on my mic. Hi, Internet. Your friendly electronics nerd here, never-ending student. Coming to you today from a brand new perspective. I have my computer recording station set up now with my excellent Samsung microphone and good headphones for monitoring, and my Potato Vision camera that I got off an Amazon returns auction for $1. You're welcome. I bet you can make out a couple individual pixels that describe seeing my face. Don't worry, it's ugly. You're not missing anything. So, I originally got this because I wanted to kind of branch out and just do some streaming-esque videos of me playing Magic and commentary on, playing jank videos. Fun stuff. Things that could bring you entertainment, joy. Joy is not what I have for you today. This video is brought to you by depression. Have you tried depression? Depression is not helpful at all, but you don't have a choice. And neither do I, because I've talked about this dark shit 20 freaking times and still screwed up the video somewhere. So F it, we'll not exactly do it live because I've redone this 20 times, but that's the spirit. So, with all of that foreplay about how dark and depressing and shitty this topic is, let's get right to it. Yeah. The CEO of United Healthcare was assassinated in New York City. And I thought, just because 10,000 other people are talking about this, and I should theoretically have nothing of substance or note to contribute to the conversation that many other people have not already touched upon, screw it. I feel like doing it. I guess that's a bit disingenuous. I do feel like I have a little to contribute. So, except for recently, as of when I'm making this iteration, I've been making so many iterations, until they found the guy that they're pretty sure is him. It probably is. The news articles from most of the main news media had a certain element of off. They felt disingenuous. My kitty has decided to interrupt. Come on. Say hello. Yes. Hello, liquid cat. All right. So I'm drastically slashing my standards to just not go to take 21. So, good kitty. Yeah, you just interrupt stuff. That's fine. You're adorable. And yes, bash my microphone. Okay, I can't really blame the cat. That was me. You go away. Or stay on the desk. Whatever. F it. No take 21. Alright. So let's just get to the dark shit. The framing on a lot of the articles I was seeing online just seemed weird. Focusing on things like the viewpoint of corporate security, like this was preventable if Thompson had a security detail, or other viewpoints, other ways to frame events or frame the story of events that gave me this reaction of, what are you doing? And the reason for that was so many news organizations were either utterly ignoring or drastically understating the incredibly united public reaction to this assassination. And I feel that is significantly of note. That reaction has been one of celebration, approval, combined with a deep, deep anger at these companies, and especially towards United Healthcare, which is among for-profit insurance companies particularly egregious. So I spent a little time thinking about why are they ignoring the elephant in the room? People are, from one video I saw, literally dancing in the streets. There was a assassin look-alike contest in New York City, where people were like competing for a cash prize to see how close they could get to dressing up as the assassin. And you didn't see much, if any, coverage on this for, mainstream sources. In fairness, part of that is perhaps an element of journalistic responsibility. They may well be concerned with not framing stories in a way that celebrate violence, and I can understand that. They may be concerned with not framing things in a way that communicate to people that, yes, everyone around you feels the same. They all just cheered when this guy died. Journalistic responsibility. Okay, I can understand that. But if you think about the prerequisite for that kind of responsibility in journalism, that is a caution you want to keep in mind, a perspective you want to maintain in and for the maintenance of a healthy society. And this is the reason it struck me as disingenuous, as off, as wrong, as not fitting. In many ways, and specifically in regards to the subject matter of these events, this specific event, a healthy society is something we do not currently have. For-profit health insurance is wrong. I'm not going to phrase that as an opinion. It is extremely simply a fundamental conflict of interest. You have a corporation, first off, its primary motive as a corporation is profit. Whatever the PR smokescreen, whatever they use to create their corporate image, first and foremost, profit is everything. Nothing else matters compared to that. Anything else that is considered of consequence is only of consequence if it feeds into priority one. Make more money this quarter than you did last quarter. Much, much more. The conflict of interest is not complicated to see. You have profit and loss. Profit is people paying into the corporation for the service, healthcare insurance. Loss is the expense of paying out for healthcare insurance coverage in the event that people need to utilize healthcare. So, in the world of healthcare insurance, whenever anyone uses the service they pay for, the corporation loses profit. I'm not saying anything revolutionary here. I'm not saying things that people don't really know. And it's not more complicated than that. It is fundamentally a conflict of interest, which leads to the harvesting of years of life, utterly uncountable years of human life for vast wealth. You can only tell people the same lies, the same misdirections for so long and expect them to not realize what's going on. Even if you can keep people in a place where they don't understand the details, the nuance, when you screw people over for decades, people know they're getting screwed over. You can try to redirect. That is a very common tactic. Get people to fight amongst themselves, blame someone, something else. Common tactic. But it doesn't prevent people from knowing they're getting screwed over. And everyone knows that they're getting screwed over by for-profit health insurance in the United States. And thus, you have this reaction. Likewise, many news media outlets have been describing the degree of upset using terminology such as disgruntled, dissatisfied, frustrated, and the strongest term I have heard, again from mainstream sources, anger. These terms do not seem strong enough to me to adequately describe the state of people's emotions in the United States towards this state of affairs. If I were to pick a phrase, it would be a boiling ocean of murderous rage. Literally. Literally, murderous rage. So again, journalistic integrity and not wanting to promote a tone that encourages additional violence. I can understand why. But that's for a world less broken than ours. And because we are in the world we're in, it just comes across as false. as disingenuous as I can tell they're just ignoring reality willfully. And it hurts trust. I mean, not that we haven't already had a lot of trust harmed from various other issues, but I thought I'd bring that up. Now, aside from how media is framing things, or how they were framing things before they, found out who the guy is, or allegedly who the guy is, another part that I wanted to contribute was why things are the way they are. Now, a lot of people already know the phrase money in politics. And yes, it's money in politics. But there are things that most politicians won't speak about. And the reasoning is pretty simple. A very few are willing to speak directly about the stuff that most others can't/won't. They can't if they want to be able to stay in their positions of power. That's probably the easy way to put it. So I'm going to be linking everything that I play. Where is it? Bernie Sanders and Jon Stewart. I'm going to play this clip for you. Bernie is willing to explain the issue of why certain things are just never brought up by our politicians. I'll play that now. So a couple seconds before this.
If I'm fundamentally thinking about why government plays an important role in all this, we talk about the system of democracy as checks and balances, and we all talk about legislative and executive and judicial and all these. I think what nobody ever really maybe projected into was the power of multinational global corporate interest. And there really isn't anything that is other than government that has the size and hopefully the will. Look, the system that we have chosen to generate profit is a powerful one. And it, as you very adeptly pointed out earlier, generates an incredible amount of wealth. But very clearly that system has victims and collateral damage. And it feels like government's role should be to support those victims and the collateral damage and somehow be a check on this larger corporate entity.
But the corporate world understands exactly what you said, and that's why they're trying to buy the government. So in some ways, you can almost look at government today as a result of Citizens United, as the House and the Senate, as employees.
So, for those who don't know the details about Citizens United, a brief explanation. Money has always been in politics. Money has always been a means to buy power. But there is the question of degree. How much power can it provide? How easily can it provide power? Citizens United was, in short, the decision that ruled money as free speech and just tore down the barriers that were in the way of corporations easily putting together super PACs, political action committees, through which they could donate any amount of money they wanted to any political candidate. And, well, we'll go back to Bernie for this.
Of large corporations and wealthy people. I mean, employees, result of Citizens United, as the House and the Senate, as employees of large corporations and wealthy people. I mean, that's what, if you're a billionaire, you could start a super PAC, put hundreds of millions of dollars into an effort to defeat, say, Sherrod Brown in Ohio or other candidates, or AIPAC, If you disagree with what Netanyahu is doing in Gaza, well, you're going to have to deal with AIPAC, who's prepared to spend $17 million in a bloody Democratic caucus. You want to stand up to AIPAC? Good luck to you. So that gets back to money in politics, how horrific Citizens United has been, not only in allowing billionaires to buy elections, but to intimidate people. You want to stand up to the drug companies? Fine. They're going to put a whole lot of money to defeat you. You prepared to do that? Well, maybe I don't want to do that. That's where we are at.
Senator, do you think?
So, if you wonder why politicians, specifically, like people that you might even believe genuinely have your interests at heart, genuinely want positive change for this country, and then they turn around and either don't do certain things that you had expected of them, or they just pull evil shit. This is a big reason. It's carrot and stick. Even if they don't accept the donations of corporate super PACs, there is the inherent stick, the threat. If you talk about us, if you make us, the corporations, like this specific corporation, United Healthcare, an issue on which you will campaign, on which you will build your political platform and demand change for the better, well, your political opponent there, he's starting to look attractive to us. Now we have these, we have $20 million in pocket change that we can throw in towards him for a state representative election or a state senatorial election, maybe 30 million, whatever. It's less than pocket change to us. So shut up. You don't talk about us. We'll do what we want. You go and do your own thing. You can look to other areas to make change. There's plenty of things you can work on. There's plenty of things you can do and feel good about yourself. You just need to stay away from us, or you'll never be in politics again. Because you'll never outfund us in terms of your opponent just having money dumped into their campaign. That's it. That's what money in politics means. I mean, that's one major factor. It's not all of it. There's other complications and nuances, but that's the giant stick, the lever of control that billionaires and corporations have over our politicians. They have the carrot of, you either scratch my back or don't talk about me, and here, you can have $1 million for your campaign. And the stick of, oh, you want to call out the evil shit I'm doing? That evil shit makes me a lot of money. So, yeah, your opponent looks good for a $50 million donation. That's what we currently have. That's where we are with our political system. That is the money in politics. So, there's another video that you should absolutely watch. And it's by CGP Grey. He made it like 8 years ago. It's The Rules for Rulers. I'm not going to play any significant portion of it, but I do want you to listen to the intro and the outro. And I'll play that now.
Do you want to rule? Do you see the problems in your country and know how to fix them? If only you had the power to do so. Well, you've come to the right place. But before we begin this lesson in political power, ask yourself, why don't rulers see as clearly as you, instead acting in such selfish, self-destructive, short-sighted ways? Are they stupid, these most powerful people in the world, or is it something else? The throne looks omnipotent from afar, but it is not as it seems. Take the throne to act, and the throne acts upon you. Accept that, or turn back now before we discuss the rules for rulers.
So, it's essentially a primer on the nature of how power works in politics, how people acquire power, and how they maintain power, and how even the most benevolent of individuals who wish the best for society are forced into roles and shapes that betray their initial purpose. It is depressing shit. And if you want to understand, just accept you're going to be depressed by it. At the end, let's skip ahead a bit.
Chairs, chiefs. These rules apply to all and explain their actions, from the CEO of the largest global corporate conglomerate who must keep his board happy to the chair of the smallest homeowners association, managing votes and spending membership fees. You cannot escape structures of power. You can only turn a blind eye to understanding them. And if you ever want the change you dream about, there's a zeroth rule you cannot ignore. Without power, you can affect nothing. You may not.
So there's the trap. The phrase power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely, it has more nuance than it seems. There is the classic understanding of the more power you have, the more privilege, the more you enjoy that privilege, and find ways to self-justify that it is right for you to have this privilege. That's kind of the more commonly understood perspective on power corrupts. Mr. Gray touches on the less understood aspect, that corruption is an inherent part, and often in certain ways unavoidable, of getting to positions of power. My cat's knocking stuff over. Getting to positions of power and keeping power. Like we just spoke about how health insurance companies can say, hey, you don't talk about us, or we donate to your opponent. You want to maintain your position of power so you can try to affect something? That's the reality we have. They can take that position away. Now, is it instant? No. Is it absolutely guaranteed that they can just decide every election? No. But they can tip the scales really hard. Even if they can't 100% guarantee an election, if they're willing to really open up their pocketbooks, let's say they can guarantee it to the tune of 80% probability, 90%. If they're just willing to spend unlimited money because they practically have unlimited money. United Health Group, I believe last year made, $100 billion in profit for the year? Something like that. Let me see. No, not the subsidiary. I'm looking for the parent corporation. Oh, this is why I should keep links open. Here. So, ending. All right. So, United Health Group gross profit for 12 months ending September 30 was $90.093 billion. Yeah, they can buy elections, and because of Citizens United, they can spend as much as they want on elections. This is a big part of why things are the way they are, or rather, why they're staying as they are. How they got here? Power has a tendency to attract power. Money has a tendency to attract money, i.e., individuals and companies with wealth tend to seek more wealth. Those with power tend to seek more power. Citizens United was increasing power and cementing power. And that's why we are, well, that's part of why we are where we are now. So, going back to the assassination, and my view on things, I also hate for-profit health insurance in the United States. It is evil. And once we know the things we know about money in politics, in nuance, in detail, as we've touched upon just now, we start to wonder, how do we actually affect change for the better in that system? It's not like all our politicians are just corrupt and they'll accept a bunch of money and do whatever they're told. They can be coerced, or if they do not obey the coercion, they can be driven out. So maybe you get a politician that is speaking to these issues genuinely and trying to push for change, and then they don't get reelected. Accepting that as the system we currently exist in, it was Kennedy who said, if you make peaceful revolution impossible, you make violent revolution inevitable. Is peaceful change possible? Do we have means left available to us that can not affect like nebulous anything for the better? Screw that. This specific issue, because this is what we're talking about right now. This one little piece of the giant shit pie that is all of the problems of our current day. For-profit health insurance, extracting enormous wealth off of the suffering of all the people that are forced to pay into it and get little from it. Along the same lines, and possibly the same line of thought that the assassin had, there's the concept of the 4 boxes of liberty. It is a term possibly coined by Stephen Decatur Miller, although it could have been phrased by someone before him, and just not well recorded in history. The 4 boxes of liberty are, where do we have this? Yeah. The soapbox, the ballot box, the jury box, and the cartridge box. The soap box is back in the day, if you wanted to, reach people, you didn't have YouTube. You didn't have television or radio. But you could take an empty box of soap, flip it upside down, stand on top of it to be a little bit taller than the crowd, and speak publicly. Freedom of speech. Public speaking. Addressing the people. And, as an extension, the press. This is the soapbox. Speaking to your fellow people. Speaking about issues that affect us. And bringing people's attention to it so that collectively we can pay attention, think about this, work on it. Next is the ballot box. This is pretty straightforward. Look for politicians, representatives who represent your interests, your points of view, who will champion your cause or the cause that you choose, and vote for them in the ballot box. Try to put people into positions of power that will do good on the issues you see that need good done on. The jury box. There are issues that may or may not be crimes, which you may be called upon to serve as a jury of an individual's peers, and in your judgment decide, looking at the situation as a whole, not only of the legality, but the wrongness or inherent rightness of an action. Part of the jury box is also the inherent power of jury nullification. If there is something that is technically, legally a crime, but is not viewed as acceptable to punish someone for. An example back a couple hundred years ago would be, say, freeing and stealing slaves away from slave states and smuggling them up north. If you had someone tried in a southern state and they helped smuggle a slave away from slavery and they committed that crime, the jury box is the box in which people can decide, yes, he broke the law, but he did not do wrong, and we find him innocent anyway. The last box. The cartridge box. This is the last resort. Violence, murder, civil war. Achieving political change by violence and death. There is an earnest plea with the 4 boxes of liberty. Use in this order. Speak out first. Vote for people who will address the issues of the day second. Be a juror of your conscience third, even if it is in contravention with the law. And the last resort. Death. Blood. This is a very serious issue. I don't want to be in a society where the fourth box is the one that needs to be used because nothing else works. And I am, these past years, more and more concerned that that is the world we are now faced with. And I don't like that. That's not a good place to be. That's not a good world to live in. If you want an example, look at Syria, Afghanistan, various countries that have just had constant conflict, constant war, where gunfire and death is the norm, where roving gangs and warlords are the norm. Rule by force, by threat of death. Violence begets violence. But do any of the first three boxes work anymore? It depresses me deeply when I think about that question. The soapbox? So. We're able to talk to each other, but it's more complicated than just the ability to speak freely and not be silenced. There is a signal-to-noise ratio. There is algorithms, AI, manipulating and directing what and how much of what we see, gets in front of us. The ballot box? We spent most of this talk on the ballot box, on politics, politicians, and how little power these days they have over wealthy corporate interests. The jury box? Maybe. But the jury box is not just people in the jury, it is the justice system as a whole. And I have been watching the justice system be systematically and maliciously degraded for years. Certain judges being blocked from appointments, packing of the courts with justices that are chosen for the element of loyalty instead of the element of holding justice above, the neutral arbitration of justice, first and foremost in their courtroom. We've seen the packing of the courts with justices who, instead of the neutral arbitration of justice, hold loyalty as their first priority. That has been systematically going on for a while. So I don't know. I certainly don't have any good conclusions. But hey, like I said, this video brought to you by depression. Have you tried depression in your life today? Now you have. Enjoy.